Welcome to the Putback here on SNY.TV. I'm Ian Begley, SNY's NBA insider and host of the show. Got a great one for you today. We got a Miles McBride interview, Deuce, talking about his new book, Deuce, the Champion Friendship, and also he gets into Mike Brown, he gets into Jordan Clarkson, and a few other Knick topics. We're going to be breaking down some offseason stuff and Summer League with my buddy Lee Escobedo. Lee, covering the NBA and the WNBA for Bleacher Report, as well as writing the NBA for the Guardian as the Guardian as their NBA columnist. So we're going to get into a lot here. We're going to have some fun. As always, let's get started with the baseline. Knicks Summer League is underway. And what do we see so far? A couple early losses. Kevin McCullough, big scoring night the other night. Tyler Kolek, a little hot and cold. Lee, what are you seeing from the guys who are entering their second season here?
Great to be here, Ian. Definitely want to give a double blessing shout out to my KOT family, Jay Ellis, Ryan G, Ebony, Phil, Fritz, and Be the Motivator. It's a blessing to be here. And Knicks Summer League has been grossly underwhelming thus far, but I want to start. I don't really care when I'm watching these games about how many points are being scored because these Summer League games are putting players in unrealistic usage, on ball, dribbles per touches and scenarios. These are not the shot diets they're going to have in the regular season. So I keep that in mind when I'm watching them. It's Twitter, honestly, should keep their goalpost on wheels because it keeps moving back and forth when it comes to guys like Kolek and McCullough and Hot Porty, who I think have had up and down opportunities thus far, but it doesn't mean this is who they're going to be in the NBA or that their lifeline with the Knicks has been cut short. With that being said, there's been a lot of positives to glean from this team, specifically with the two rookies.
And when you're looking at the group, I know Mike Brown has said that they wanted to play fast. The Knicks wanting to play fast, and he's going to incorporate several different styles. He referenced Jalen Brunson as a player who can help him incorporate those styles. Just the Knicks Summer League, what they're running, does it give you any kind of a preview as to what we might see from the big club this season?
That's a good question. Jordan Brink was a part of Thibs' staff. He's that summer league head coach. He was well known and well respected for being great at the challenges this past season, making the Knicks one of the best in the NBA at that. I think we have seen some more off-ball movement. We've seen more guard-to-guard screen setting. We've seen more off-ball screen setting, which has opened things up in pistol action, some hammer skip-outs to open shooters in the corners, which made sense, right? You want to get these guys in rhythm, talking about Pacome Dadiet, talking about Kevin McCullough Jr., even Tyler Kolek. But most of all, I liked a lot of a two-man action, more emphasis on pick and roll, specifically with McCullough and Ariel Hot Porty. I've seen Hot Porty be really active in his screen setting, very active around the rim. He's setting 2 or 3 screens per possession and really improve as a dribble handoff passer on the perimeter.
So you can glean some things from Vegas despite the not great results so far. I'm remembering, I believe it was an Orlando Summer League where the Knicks under Phil Jackson, they were winless, and it actually portended to a bad upcoming season for them. But sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But really, it's about your younger players and how they're looking. And with Kolek, in particular, he did not see regular minutes during the regular season his rookie year. Tom Thibodeau really liked him, pushed to draft him, wanted to draft him high. And so he had a fan in Thibodeau, but given the circumstances, didn't see a lot of minutes. And when you look at the roster now, the makeup of this roster, you look at who they have in place, a 9-man rotation, if that's the way Mike Brown goes, those 9 guys are in place. So it doesn't seem like Kolek has a clear path to a rotation spot at the moment. We'll see what happens with that last roster spot that the Knicks still have open. But I don't see a clear path there for Kolek in terms of, okay, we can pencil him into this spot in the rotation. He's going to get minutes. Lee, should he get minutes? Should he get regular minutes? Should he be a rotation player based on what you've seen in Vegas?
No. And this is not an indictment of him as a person or really even as a player. But I look at this roster, and there are definitely compromises defensively in the starting unit, and you can even make an argument for the bench as well. So if you're going to have Tyler Kolek, now you're having a lead guard rotation of him, Jordan Clarkson, and Jalen Brunson that all struggle to keep the point of attack in front of them. Deuce McBride would have to do so much, either the 2 or the 1, to make up for their defensive miscues that I think you're overly compromising the rotation if Tyler Kolek is dead in minutes. And he's been outright terrible in the Summer League. He's tied for the second worst plus minus in the entire tournament at a negative 20. He's averaging 4.5 turnovers through 2 games. This doesn't mean he can't bounce back, but I think it's obvious that all the Karens that were clamoring for him to get playoff time over veterans like Campaign or DeLon Wright might need to go back to ChatGPT, because I think on a basketball side, it's just not realistic for him to be a real part of a NBA team outside of Summer League and be able to keep his man in front of him defensively. I also want to make a preamble here that he looked better last year because he was playing with better players. And that's important to note. When you have Jalen Brunson or you have Cat or OG or Bridges, you're going to appear better. He's playing with a lot of undrafted guys and second-round picks. So there has to be a little bit of understanding allotted to him that he's having to carry a bigger load, and he's playing with guys that have a lower basketball IQs and reads.
You know what? First of all, the Kolek Karens, I mean, I think you might have coined a new term.
They're real.
Throw it out there on the KOT show with your guys over there. But yeah, it's you make a good point about the talent you're on the floor with, and then how does that change your evaluation, if it does at all, of Kolek. Certainly he has not jumped like a second-year player you would think would jump in his second Summer League. We got Pacome Dadiet, my guy James Edwards of The Athletic, just saying that he thinks that it's likely Pacome Dadiet will miss the next Summer League game, the upcoming Summer League game. So there you have it with the Dadiet toe injury. A toe injury also sidelines him for portions of his rookie season. So just something to keep an eye on there. And Lee, you coached Dink Pate for an AAU team in Texas. You coached him. You were around him. You were around his family. What can you tell us about Dink?
I did get an opportunity to coach him. He was before my time with the Urban DFW Elite. Shout out Urban DFW Elite, the best AAU team in Texas. Yes, he was there before my time, but I am around everyone who was around him. Mm-hmm. I mean, his coach, the CEO, the impeccable Jay Tolbert, who we had on the KOT show, and the rest of the front office there. And everything that I've heard about him is that he's an upstanding human being. We were able to have Jade on the time show, and she gave even more clarification on the type of person he is. And it's obviously very interesting, too. He is the second player from Urban DFW Elite to receive a two-way contract, or the potential of a two-way contract, with the Knicks. Ferron Hunt in 2022 was the other. So that's something interesting to keep an eye on. But, this organization is different than other AAU teams. They really care about giving young men mentorship and life guidance. So when Pate came in at 15 years old, he told Jade he was going to make the NBA. That she said that's not something they hear very often, but they believed him once they saw him on the court. So they taught him the fundamentals of basketball and life to be a man on and off the court. And I've been texting his pops since he was signed, and he comes from a really, really great family. And he texted me after game 1 when he shot 1 of 8 from the field, and he said, I guarantee you he's going to come out and he's going to do better. And he has. He's already shooting 33% from a three-point line, which is a 10-point uptick from what he did in the G League. And most importantly, he's had 0 turnovers. And turnovers have been the Achilles heel for this Knicks team in Summer League, specifically Tyler Kolek, which makes it a strong argument that Dink should be getting more minutes at the 1, more than a 14 in game 1 and 17 minutes in game 2. It's time to really see him. Let's sit Marjon Beauchamp and give Dink Pate an opportunity to really ball out, because he's shown you rebounding, he's shown you assist, he's shown you attacking the rim, and most importantly, point of attack defense.
And usually when the Knicks bring someone in like Pate, if there's no spot on the big club, they do have those kinds of players in Westchester for the year, developing, getting a longer look at them. Just based on the roster, would you expect Dink to accept an invitation to Westchester if that's the way it goes?
Yes, I do. And I think it's also important to note that he was the youngest professional player at the time when he joined the G League before going to senior year at Pinkston, where Urban DFW Elite still practices. And when he was a 15-year-old coming in, he was playing with the 17-year-old team, which I've now been there with Urban DFW Elite. That is very, very rare. You do not see that. And we have some really good kids, and some kids who are playing NCAA D1 ball and future lottery picks playing for us right now. And for him to play the 17-year-old team at 15 just shows his confidence and moxie and professionalism at such a young age.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how Dink and the rest of the group look in their upcoming summer league game here out in Vegas. And we know Mike Brown's out there. We've seen Mike Brown. I'm not in Vegas, but you see him on the telecast. He's there with the front office, talking to players. He checked in with Miles McBride, which we'll get to a little bit later in our McBride interview. But Mike Brown getting to work, starting his tenure as Knick head coach here out in Vegas. And so we talked a little bit about the influence on the summer league, the style of play. But I'm curious. The curious thing for me is the Mitchell Robinson, Karl Towns piece, and how Mike Brown handles that, because there are many different ways that you could go lineup-wise with the group. And the Knicks finished that season with Robinson and Towns. Tom Thibodeau obviously making that change midway through the Indiana series. So Mike Brown, if you look at what he did in Sacramento, there was not a lot of double big lineups, not lineups that got heavy usage. So I wonder if that informs us at all as far as his decision, whether to go double big or to go a different route. And Lee, if you were Mike, which way would you go with the starting unit?
I've been a writer for almost 15 years now and covering the NBA for about 5, worked for many publications, made some friends in the media. And what I'm hearing is there's a lot of support internally for Towns at the 5 with Mitch coming off the bench. Mike Brown, typically, if you think about his stops in Sacramento and the Lakers and Cleveland, he likes to have a big man who can provide spacing and passing, whether that's Sabonis or all the way back to Zydrunas Ilgauskas in LeBron's first stint in Cleveland. So I think it's interesting to think about Karl-Anthony Towns more as a playmaking hub at the elbow, at the 5 spot, with Mitchell Robinson coming in and reinforcing the defense as the backup and even splitting more time with the Twin Towers in games. But I think that 2-guard spot is going to be the real one that's up for grabs right now. That could be Mikal Bridges returning in that position. It could be Deuce McBride finally getting an opportunity to start, or a re-signed player like Landry Shamet getting it. But what I'm hearing and what I think makes sense is Karl-Anthony Towns as the starting center on opening night for the New York Knicks.
Yeah, it does make sense based on what you said, Lee, in terms of the past lineups that Brown has leaned on. The interesting thing to me, at least, was when the Knicks we're talking to free agents, Gershon Yabusele in particular. They were talking as if that Robinson Towns lineup, they were viewing Yabusele through the prism of that Towns Robinson lineup, talked about how he's versatile and how he could back up both Robinson and Towns. So it tells you that at least there's some internal support from the front office to go to that double big lineup. But obviously it's going to be Mike Brown's decision and his decision alone at the end of the day, based on his history. I agree with you, Lee. Towns at the 5 makes a lot of sense with Mitchell Robinson coming off the bench. Now, fitting into New York, I talked to somebody who knows Mike pretty well, a New Yorker, Cardozo head coach Ron Niclario, legendary head coach, all-time leader, I believe, in PSAL wins and state wins, and he's closing in on 1,000 wins for his career. And so he knew Mike way back when ABCD camp, which, if you're not familiar with it, it was a camp founded by Sonny Vaccaro, really Dickinson University, that had the best of the best players. I mean, I would go on YouTube, familiarize yourself with it, because it was a legendary camp. Mike Brown, Wizards assistant there, got to know Ron Niclario. They spent time together. They've stayed in touch. Niclario says, Mike is a great guy. Very nice man, a guy who was a sponge, and he could tell early on that Mike Brown was going to be successful. Obviously, Mike Brown, not a New Yorker, but he really took to the street basketball scene, going to the Rucker with Niclario, seeing games there. And so New York is not foreign territory to Brown. I think if any of the Knick candidates was going to come in and handle the pressure and the expectations here, I think it was going to be Brown, based on who they had interviewed. And Lee, your thoughts just on the high bar here for Mike Brown and him being able to handle it or not being able to handle it?
Great question, Ian, and I agree with your assessment of how Mike Brown's presented himself thus far in the history. Got a chance to talk to Bernie Bickerstaff during the interviewing process for Mike Brown. Bickerstaff was Brown's first coach with Washington and Denver, where he was a video assistant and then an assistant coach. And Bernie Bickerstaff spoke very highly of Mike Brown. Of course he would. They're very good friends, but specifically about him being a straight shooter, communicator, and collaborator, but most importantly, capable of evolution in his approach. And he spoke to Mike Brown's offensive mindset when he was at the Cavs and LeBron James, that the offense kind of ran through a 1-4 flat around James. And then as he evolved over time and learned under Steve Kerr and finally got to Sacramento, you saw more of a dribble handoff-centric offense, a lot of off-ball movement and more of spacing and getting everyone touches on ball, which is very different in the Cleveland time. So everything I'm hearing around Mike Brown and this hiring is thinking about it through a lens of family. And that was a term that Bernie Bickerstaff talked about, his former protege. He saw him as family. And the connections between Mike Brown and World Wide West go back very far. It's the second time World Wide West has gotten Mike Brown a job. The first was with Cleveland, now here in New York. So it's kind of a full circle moment again. Haven't heard that talked about much, but again, I think it's very important to see this hire and his acclimation to the team under the lens of family and his ability to evolve offensively and defensively based on his personnel.
Right. And yeah, certainly the West relationship was there. But I do think, though, at the end of the day, any factor outside of what they saw in the interview process probably didn't factor in a ton. I think it was just about him as a candidate, who they were looking at, who was available. And I think, Leon Rose, I think this was his call at the end of the day. He had support from the key stakeholders. But the relationship with William Wesley certainly doesn't hurt, matters. But I do think throughout the process here, what happened in those interviews and outside of those interviews ultimately led the day in terms of the decision. Was it the right one? To me, we'll find out in late May, early June, if the Knicks can advance beyond the Eastern Conference Finals. That's where Tom Thibodeau left them. So we'll see. Either way, it'll be interesting to watch. Speaking of interesting, we have we're going to get into, my apologies, we're going to get into some of the Knick free agent moves. Gershon Yabusele, we touched on a little bit. And Yabusele, obviously versatile, big off the bench, gives the Knicks some scoring off the bench. And to me, he was the best big on the market at the time the Knicks signed him, best big available. So I think they got a bargain there. We'll see how it plays out in New York. It's never a sure thing. But Lee, Yabusele, what were your thoughts when the Knicks landed him?
I was very happy. We did the time show, had a little off-season preview. Who would you like to get? I loved the opportunity of Yabusele. I believe in Knicks. You can clarify this. Had his rights at some point before last season, before he signed with the Philadelphia 76ers, coming off of a great stint in the Olympics, playing for the French national team. I see him as a clear improvement over Precious Achiuwa. Precious Achiuwa kind of had cement for hands, and Yabusele has actual touch around the rim. I think he's a better shooter, obviously, from the three-point line, not just from the corners where I think he's going to get a lot of opportunity, but even above the break and having a ball in his hands off of handoffs. I'd see him hitting some threes and a much better transition finisher over Precious. Not going to go as far as say he's a better athlete, but I just think he has better fundamentals and a better finishing package in transition, which I think this Knicks team is going to do a lot more running and increase their pace. So he's someone who works both in that situation and within staggered sets as a movement shooter, playing alongside Karl-Anthony Towns.
Yeah, Jordan Clarkson, another value signing, getting a player like that on the vet minimum is something you're always going to jump at. How does Clarkson fit here? Is it going to be a success or is it going to be disappointing? Lee, what do you see?
Leon the Don, man, I love this signing. This is a massive upgrade, in my opinion, over Cameron Payne and DeLon Wright. No disrespect to those two. Pros. Both, especially DeLon Wright, played excellent defense in the postseason. Campaign played excellent defense in the regular season. But to me, Clarkson's a superior playmaker, both for himself and for others. I know he was mostly as a shooting guard in Utah, but he comes with a ton of playoff experience. And he's someone I trust in late game situations, maybe not necessarily to take the big shot, but at least draw that hedging defender to have to stay with him on the perimeter, which might give Jalen Brunson that little sliver of breathing room to hit that game winner. I think about him as a floor spacer, and I think about him as a dog on the offensive end. It's going to be about He needs to keep his man in front of him and play consistent defense.
The Knicks also have that last roster spot available, enough room under the second even for the veterans minimum. I've got some stuff to get into there, but I think we're going to wait for the talkback section of the show, which is later on when we get into answering your questions. I know there are a few questions about that last spot, so we'll get into that at that point. Right now, we're going to transition to a Miles McBride interview we were able to procure on Monday. McBride was great with us, and he was at the NYC Kids Basketball Camp, NYC Basketball Kids Summer Camp, excuse me. It's the fourth time he's been there. Was great with the campers, great with the kids, and he's also promoting his new book, which is Deuce, the Champion of Friendship. He's been all over the place promoting it. Today's show, he's at the NBA store, I think this afternoon, evening, to promote it. So he was talking about wanting to, impact the youth, impact the community with his book and with the work that he does off the floor. He also got into Mike Brown and Jordan Clarkson and Yabusele, a couple other topics. So here's our interview with Miles McBride, who again was generous with us. The author of a new book, Deuce, the Champion of Friendship. You were at the Today Show. You're going to be at the NBA store promoting this book. What's it been like talking to people about it?
Oh, it's been amazing. It's been something I've been working on for such a long time, and now to see it actually come to life, it's been amazing.
And here we are, NYC Kids Camp, your fourth year here doing the camp. Why is it important for you to be here, NYC Basketball Kids?
Yeah, just being able to inspire the youth and just give back to the community that supports me so much. It's really easy on my part. They do a great job, so I just love coming back.
And what inspired you to write the book?
Really, again, just being able to inspire the youth, really encourage positivity and friendship, and just being loyal to people that care about you.
It's being translated, I think, into Portuguese for your trip to Brazil. What's going on in Brazil?
Yeah, so me and my girlfriend, we're going down to actually baptize our daughter and see her family, and it's going to be a great trip.
That's beautiful. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Basketball-wise, new head coach, Mike Brown. Have you gotten a chance to talk to him?
Yeah, we've definitely had a good couple of conversations. He's really excited. I'm really excited, and I think it's going to be a great year.
What do you think about that addition with, first of all, Tom Thibodeau out, Mike Brown in? Just what were your thoughts?
It's above my pay grade. Thibs did a great job, obviously. The run we've had. And obviously winning, 50 games and things of that such. And, it's above my pay grade on the decisions. But, I'm excited to start this new chapter.
You guys added Jordan Clarkson, obviously a scorer. What are your thoughts on his addition, what he could bring?
Yeah, obviously he's a vet in this league. He's done great things, and obviously he can fill out the stat sheet and really score the ball at a high level. And then obviously adding Gershon as well. I feel like everybody's seen what he did in the Olympics and, carried that momentum into this year. So we're really excited about him.
Is that important for this team based on last year, just adding depth to the bench, adding some scoring to help you out and help the guys off the bench out?
Yeah, without a doubt. I feel like we're going to play fast. We're going to be using a lot of different guys. I think, if you saw with the finals, they had a lot of depth on both teams, and I feel like, we're all NBA guys. So if you're on the team, I feel like you're able to help out.
What's Mike Brown's message been? It's been a few conversations, I know you said, but what's his general message been to the group?
Yeah, it's been intros pretty much, just getting used because it's all happened so fast, and it's not official until it's official. So just quick intros and talking about life. So it's cool.
What about you? Is there anything you're focusing on this off season? Anything specific?
Honestly, being healthy. That's number one. Obviously, I didn't start being able to play last year until about September, so I'm taking this summer and really just getting my body right. And I was dinged up throughout the year, so I just want to be healthy.
And the last one, just how do you hope to continue impacting the community through things like this and through your book? What are your goals in impacting the community?
Honestly, if one kid takes this book and, sees something and it can inspire them to do something great, that's my goal. Obviously, I want more, but, I just want to impact anybody that I'm around positively.
Wonderful. Thank you, Miles.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, a lot of good stuff there from Miles McBride. One thing that stood out to me was he referencing the two NBA finalist teams, Thunder, Indiana, talking about their depth, and Mike Brown. I think he's going to go at least 9 here, and that would be and I think the minutes are probably going to be a little bit spread out here in a way that they were not always under Tom Thibodeau. So Miles McBride referencing that when he was talking about the signings of Jordan Clarkson and Gerson Yabusele, that stood out to me. Lee, what did you hear that stood out to you?
Ian, this is why you have a GOAT. Anyone who is a young journalist looking to break into the field, Ian should be your North Star in terms of knowing how to ask questions that don't just get at the heart of the matter, but also require the person to give extensive answers. So I hope someone clips that and teaches that to their journalism class, because that was a masterclass in my opinion. I love the fact that Brown said he's spoken to every player thus far, so no surprise. Deuce was one of those. And I do want to give a shout out to Thibs. He did a great job as a coach, and he should be remembered as a great Knicks coach. He is one of the best table setters in NBA history. Deuce, to me, should get an opportunity to start. The advanced metrics support it. He's earned it, as did Grimes did previously, and it allows him to be the point of attack defender to give Mikal Bridges more reps as a lane disruptor and save more energy for offense. Deuce is one of the players on the roster last year and multiple years who's shown he can play with any combination of guys. So if Mike Brown is indeed going to extend the rotation, then you need a guy like Deuce who can be a connector no matter who the other 4 guys are playing alongside him. I look to him to have a larger role and to be more efficient, especially on defense.
Yeah, it's going to be such an interesting decision there with the 2 spot, as you're talking about, Lee. Which way does Brown go? Evidence, at least during the playoffs, showed you that the traditional 5 the Knicks rolled out was not effective enough. And so does you go, Deuce McBride. It's going to be fascinating, especially during training camp, preseason, to see which way Brown starts to go and what he takes a look at. Now, Lee, we are going to head to a section of the show that we call the Talkback. This is where we take questions from viewers, from the audience, kind enough to drop some really good questions in there. So we're going to get right to it. My friend and yours, Matt Spenley, is with us. The recently promoted Matt Spenley is with us to share some questions. Matt, congratulations and thank you.
Thank you, Ian. I am so sorry I missed last week. I appreciated you giving me a hard time about it. Got to keep ourselves humble out here. So I appreciate it, but I am back this week. I want to start out before we get into some of our questions, Ian. Can you just reset and tell us what the Knicks can still do with the roster and what positions they have available that they can fill before we get into this?
Yeah, so the Knicks have to stay under the second apron from a team salary perspective. They've got enough room there to add a free agent on the rookie deal, which is a certain amount of money. And then they have enough money to add a veteran free agent, veterans minimum, which is a little bit more money. So they have two holes to fill essentially before they reach that second apron. And that's kind of where it sits right now. I mean, there's stuff floating around at this time of year, as there always is, but that's really where it sits for the Knicks. If assuming this is the group they're going to training camp with, those are the 2 moves that are still left on the table.
Okay, great. Good to know. Thank you for resetting. Now, let's get into it. Our guy, Derek Sullivan, drools. Hey, Ian, free agency in general seems to be at a standstill. Is there a particular reason teams are waiting to fill their last few roster spots? Thank you.
Yeah, at this point, I think it's, what does Summer League look like? Who's going to shake out in the buyout market? You kind of have a very good idea of who is already out there, who's already available to you. So I think it's just some teams you're seeing, just assess their options and seeing what, if anything, continues to shake loose as you get through Summer League, potential buyouts with Marcus Smart, Josh Okogie in Charlotte. I believe was waived reportedly because his contract was going to be guaranteed today. So players like that become available. And so I think that's kind of why you're seeing things kind of halt to a standstill here. I would expect or hope that something gets done shortly after Summer League with that last spot, but let's see how it shakes out.
We will see indeed. Lee, you have any opinions on how the Knicks should fill out their roster here?
I have stood by since last season. Bring back Landry Shamet, start him at the 2, if not Deuce. There's also one other name that I like that to me doesn't compromise the defense or the spacing, which is Amir Coffey, who was a part-time starter on the LA Clippers last year. Oddly benched by Ty Lue going into the playoffs, but at 6'8", gives you nice size and corner 3 shooting.
So we'll see what they decide to do. The next one I had was Dewey at MSG. Any news on who we're using the last vet minimum contract on, Ian? But I think you addressed some names. Are there any other names that you want us to be keeping an eye on that are worth pointing out?
Yeah, I mean, they remain interested in Landry Shamet, the Knicks, that is, and Shamet remains open to coming back here. And so I do think there's some support for that idea, bringing the veteran back. You saw how he played in the Eastern Conference Finals when he got some minutes, how he impacted the game. So I think that there's support there. Also, Ben Simmons. To my knowledge, as of late last week, they were still in touch with Simmons. He was still under consideration for that last spot. And so what you're looking at, in a sense, is, Simmons kind of versatile, but also somebody who can handle the ball. And if you need, a point guard off the bench, he's shown that he can handle the ball. That's what he's done in the league. Whereas Shamet, I always say Landry Fields. My apologies to both Landrys. Landry Shamet is not a ball handler, not a lead guard, but certainly somebody who can come off pin downs and knock shots down and can play valuable team defense. So he gives you a different element. So it tells you that the Knicks, it doesn't seem to be a consensus on which position to fill to when you look at the roster. When you look at the two guys that I know that they're looking at, I'm sure they're looking at others as well. But certainly Landry, I do think there's some support there, and we'll see how it goes over the next few weeks.
Lee, Ian referenced Ben Simmons. What are your thoughts on him?
You must have saw my facial expression.
I did.
His elite elements are indisputable. He absolutely is one of the best on-ball defenders in the NBA. Great size at the point guard position. I think he's more of a wing at this point in his career and not a lead guard. But the mental situations with him, the drive, the motor, and just the inability to shoot. Unless you're starting him, you're severely compromising the spacing on the bench, pairing him with Clarkson, Mitchell Robinson, and Josh Hart. That doesn't seem like a recipe for success in terms of shooting, and that would really make the offense very cluttered. So I don't see him as a realistic option. That's why I advocate for guys who do both defense and shooting. I'm always defense first. It wins championships. That's why I like Landry Shamet as my choice.
Makes total sense. All right, going to shift gears just a little bit to more on the court. And you guys were talking a little about Cat before. Clevy11 is asking, what do you think Mike Brown will do differently from Thibs with regards to Karl Anthony Towns? We saw how he maximized Sabonis' ability to dominate multiple facets of the game offensively. Do you see the same with Cat and Brown? Now, Ian, obviously, Sabonis and Cat, two very different players, given Cat's proficiency at shooting threes. But just in terms of the role that Cat might play, you guys were also talking about Cat being the starting center. What do you think Brown can bring to the table with his schemes and Cat?
Yeah, I mean, Lee hit on it earlier, I think, when we talked about, top of the floor passing and kind of multiple threats out of that position. I don't want to say like a Draymond, but I know Mike Brown very, very fond of Draymond Green and the role that he played with Golden State when Brown was there. So maybe shades of Draymond with Karl Towns in terms of how he may operate as a hub for that offense. That to me seems like a good educated guess based on Brown's history, as Lee referenced. And Lee, do you see it that way? Is that something that you could see as realistic with Mike and Karl?
Absolutely, for sure. I mean, you're right. There are differences between Sabonis and Karl Anthony Towns. I think there are more similarities. They both have touch. Karl Anthony Towns is a little bit more of a flashier passer and a less efficient passer than Arvydas Sabonis, who's a very good player, but he has better foot speed and lateral quickness than Sabonis as well. So I think you hit the nail on the head, Ian. I think the Draymond Green action, which Thibs used Josh Hart in a lot last year, high post, pinch post as a passing hub. I think you're going to see that with Karl Anthony Towns, but even move him closer over to the perimeter in dribble handoff situations, which is why I advocate so strongly for Landry Shamet or Deuce McBride in the starting lineup, because it allows them to be those guys either in a pin down, as you mentioned earlier, or in a dribble handoff off of a curl, be able to catch and shoot, get in rhythm. without having to be on ball so often and use Karl-Anthony Towns' ability to then, if he wants to, fake the pass on a floor and get to the
Lee loves shooting. We got that. All right. Ian, I want to go to another starter for the Knicks, Mikal Bridges. Jimmy F on YouTube's asking, does it look like a Mikal Bridges extension, or are they waiting for a bigger trade to potentially take place, another transaction? So can you just kind of, again, reset a little bit for us what the Knicks situation with Mikal is and if there's any latest updates we should be aware of?
Yeah, Bridges eligible for I believe, 4-year, $150+ million extension here. If they don't extend, Bridges would be a free agent next summer. So kind of a pivotal moment here for Bridges and the Knicks. Bridges has been out in Las Vegas. He's been at the training facility, so he's been a very visible presence there around the team, around the young guys. And I mean, I think that's not nothing there. And so when you look at from a big picture sense, you could take even Mikal's name out of it because it could be any player in this situation. With the Knicks and all the other teams kind of keeping an eye on Milwaukee and what may or may not happen there, I think one reason why he has not been extended yet is because once you extend him, you cannot trade him for 6 months. And I think, until the Giannis stuff is fully settled, and I don't think it's fully settled yet, as much as I'm sure Bucks fans hate to hear that, because I would hate to hear it if I was a Bucks fan, but I don't think it's fully settled. And so as teams continue to keep an eye on that, continue to at least plan with that somewhere in the back of their mind, I think that's why you haven't seen Bridges extended yet. When he does extend, that I think that would tell you that Giannis is put to bed, is off the table in a sense. But I think that's one factor at play here in terms of the timing. So the extension, when it happens, if it happens, should tell you something about what's going on in Milwaukee.
Lee, do you expect we'll see a Bridges extension before the offseason's through?
I hope so. I've heard some rumblings that if they prolong that, they're able to trade him once he signs the extension. That's not something I'm advocating for, but I do reference that because we've seen it before in RJ Barrett. And the extension usually is the inciting incident that ends up determining whether a player is traded or not. We saw that also with Quentin Grimes and Emmanuel Quickly. So I hope Mikal Bridges sticks around because we gave up a lot for him. And I'm not one of those that complain about how many picks that we traded, but I do think that Mike Brown is going to take him, like I said, more out of the point of attack as a defender and allow him to have more energy saved and rest more to be able to have more of an opportunity on offense.
And a guy that could potentially add to his game with Brown at the helm. Ian, last one for you. And I'm curious, just can you give us an update a little bit on Brown's coaching staff? Our guy, Nicholas Braxton, have you heard anything about Jerry Stackhouse, Chris DeMarco, or Mike Budenholzer being considered for a lead assistant? So those are just some names, but can you just kind of reset for us a little bit too about Brown's coaching staff, how he'll fill it out, and if there's any names we should be keeping an eye on?
Right. So on the staff, I'll just start by saying that from what I know, everyone who interviewed for that Knick job was told they'll have full autonomy with their coaching staff. But there were, discussions about some of the guys on Thibs staff, some of the assistants on Thibs staff. And so I still would expect some holdovers there. I still would expect Darren Erman, Rick Brunson, Mark Bryant, and Maurice Cheeks to be among the group of holdovers. And so that doesn't leave a ton of spots for Mike Brown to add and to tinker with the staff. He's going to bring in a top assistant. And I think it's our friend Stephen Bondi who said the Knicks got denied by Dallas trying to lure Jay Triano to that spot. They definitely had interest there, and that kind of fell through. So, you look at the landscape of the league, I think, the names that were mentioned. With Budenholzer, he's sitting on a lot of money from Phoenix. Is he going to sit and wait for a head coaching job? Is he going to come in and be underneath a head coach? I can't see him coming in and being an associate head coach given the current circumstances. The name that interests me too, when you look at benches out there, Terry Stotts in Golden State, obviously had that significant role in Milwaukee where it didn't work out with Adrian Griffin. It's worked out, it seems like, in Golden State. Would Golden State want to part ways with him? Probably not. So it's been a tricky dance here for the Knicks and for Mike Brown to fill out that top spot. He will fill it out eventually. It will be someone, there as his quote-unquote offensive coordinator, associate head coach, but they haven't obviously landed anybody yet. I would look out for the Knicks being granted permission to speak to somebody who's established, like a Stotts, or they tried on Triano. I think they'll continue going that route until they hit pay dirt.
Even in the middle of summer, still a lot of stuff going on. NBA calendar just keeps rolling on. So that's what I got, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Spindley. We'll hit a quick final thought here, Lee. I want to know your thoughts on this roster, and with Mike Brown at the helm, what is the ceiling for this team in terms of regular season? Do you see them getting more than the 50 plus that they had last year, 51, I think? Do you see them kind of building throughout the regular season and coalescing in the postseason, maybe fewer regular season wins? How do you see things playing out between October and April?
I'm an eternal optimist, Ian. I'm going for a 60-birder for this New York Knicks season with the expanded rotation and additional rest for guys like Bridges, Towns, and Brunson. I think the younger guys are being able to develop within this incubator, and dudes like Yabusele and Jordan Clarkson are going to provide immediate impact. I think the ceiling in the regular season is 60 wins, and the ceiling in the playoffs is a championship. I think this is where the timeline really starts to be a heavily favored out of the East, which has been very weakened by injuries to Indiana Pacers, Halliburton, and Boston's Jason Tatum. It really allows for us and Orlando and Cleveland to be the three teams at the top. The West is a gauntlet, but I think if the Knicks can get out of the East and make the finals, the Jalen Brunson factor allows us to be able to win a 7-game series against anybody. So I'm going to remain very high and very optimistic, expecting career years for Mikal Bridges, Karl-Anthony Towns, Jalen Brunson, and Deuce McBride.
Well, there you have it from Mr. Lee Escobedo. He is all over. You can catch him on the Knick of Time KOT show. You can catch him. You can read him at The Guardian, where he works as an NBA columnist. You can read him on Bleacher Report, where he covers the NBA and the WNBA. Lee, really appreciate your time and your insights, particularly on Dink. And we'll see where it goes from here with Summer League and with Exhibit 10s and training camp and all of that. But that'll do it for this edition of the Putback here with Ian Begley. We'll be back with you guys at some point soon over the course of the off season. Really appreciate you being with us today and look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you, Ian.